The starship Bright Dawn floated silently above the. Through the observation window, the planet looked beautiful but dangerous. Dark forests covered most of the land. Mountains rose like black teeth against the orange sky. This was not a place for the weak. Stood at the window and watched. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a patient smile. Her job was to study alien cultures and help different species understand each other. She had worked with many aliens before, but they were different. They scared everyone. Commander walked up beside her. He was a tall man with worry lines on his forehead. Today, those lines were deeper than usual. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "You can still say no, nobody would blame you." Smiled softly, "I'm sure." "They are apex predators," continued. "They're 7 feet tall. They have claws that can cut through metal. Their teeth can crush bone. They've never had a successful diplomatic exchange with any species, ever." "I know. The last ambassador they hosted was a. They are basically walking tanks. He lasted 4 days before he ran away screaming." "I read the report." Grabbed her shoulder gently. "They eat meat, only meat, and they hunt it themselves for fun." Finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm. "I grew up with 3 younger brothers. One of them bit me so hard when he was 5 that I still have the scar. Another one tried to set the house on fire because he was bored. The third one once put a live snake in my bed." Blinked. "I think I can handle some big cats," she said. Before could respond, the communication panel beeped. A deep voice filled the room. "Human vessel, this is Warden of the. Your diplomat may descend. We are ready." The pause before "ready" was not encouraging. The shuttle ride down to the surface was bumpy. Used the time to review her notes. They were a proud species. They lived in family groups called clans. Each clan was led by a warden, usually the strongest in member. They valued strength, honesty, and courage. They hated weakness, lies, and cowardice. They also had no idea what to do with humans. Humans were confusing to the galaxy. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. They were soft and slow and breakable. By all logic, they should have been eaten by something bigger long ago. But somehow, humans had survived. Somehow, humans had spread across the stars. And somehow, humans kept making friends with species that should have killed them. They did not understand this. It bothered them. The shuttle landed in a wide clearing surrounded by massive trees. The air smelled like pine and something musky. Stepped out and took a deep breath. Warden was waiting for her. He was enormous. His fur was dark gray with streaks of silver. His eyes were gold and sharp like a hawk's. His hands ended in claws that looked like curved knives. When he breathed, could hear a low rumble in his chest. Behind him stood a dozen other. They were all staring at her. Their ears were flat against their heads. Their tails swished slowly. Recognized these signs. They were anxious, maybe even scared. Of her, that was interesting. "I am Warden," the big said. His voice was like stones grinding together. "You are the human called." "Yes, thank you for welcoming me into your clan hold." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We shall see if you feel welcomed. Many have come before you. All have left, most left quickly." "I don't plan to leave quickly." They all said that. Smiled, "Then I'll have to prove it differently." Studied her for a long moment. His golden eyes moved over her face, her body, her hands. She knew what he was seeing. No weapons, no armor, no claws, just a small human woman with a backpack and a smile. "Follow me," he finally said. "I will show you to your quarters." The clan hold was not what expected. She had imagined something rough and primitive. Instead, she found a beautiful compound of buildings made from dark wood and stone. Gardens grew between the structures. Small streams ran through channels in the ground. It was peaceful. But it was also full of. They watched her from doorways and windows. Cubs peeked out from behind their parents' legs. Warriors stopped their training to stare. Elders whispered to each other. waved at a group of cubs. They disappeared instantly like startled cats. "They are not used to prey walking freely among them," said. "I'm not prey." Stopped walking. He turned to face her fully. For a moment the predator inside him was visible, every muscle tensed, every instinct screamed danger. "Then what are you?" he asked. Thought about the question seriously. "I'm a guest, and hopefully someday a friend." Stared at her for a long time. Then he made that grinding laugh sound again. "Friend, the do not have friends outside our clans. Maybe that can change. Maybe," he started walking again, "or maybe you will run screaming like the others." His room was simple but comfortable. A bed with thick furs, a desk made of dark wood, a window that looked out over the gardens. She set down her backpack and started unpacking. A soft sound made her turn around. A face was peering through the crack in the door. A small face with big golden eyes and fuzzy gray ears. A cub. It couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. Sat down on the floor slowly. She didn't want to scare the little one. "Hello," she said softly. The cub's ears perked up, its head tilted to one side. "My name is What's Yours?" The cub opened its mouth. For a moment thought it would speak. Instead it hissed at her and ran away. Laughed quietly to herself. "Well," she said to the empty room, "it's a start." Outside her window the sun was setting behind the mountains. The orange sky turned purple, then black. Stars appeared one by one. Somewhere in the clan hold were preparing for the night. Hunting parties were forming. Cubs were being put to bed. Warriors were sharpening their claws. And in the middle of it all, one small human woman was brushing her teeth and putting on her pajamas. Looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't look like much, she knew that, but her grandmother had taught her something important long ago. The softest water, her grandmother had said, can wear down the hardest stone. You just need patience. Had patience. She had more patience than anyone she knew. They had no idea what was coming. The first week was hard. Woke up each morning before sunrise. She washed her face with cold water. She dressed in simple clothes that were easy to move in. Then she walked out into the clan hold and waited to see what the day would bring. Usually it brought trouble. The cubs had decided to test her. This did not surprise. Children always tested new adults. It did not matter if those children were human or the game was the same. Push until something pushes back. Find the limits. See what breaks. Did not break. On the second day, a cub named blocked her path. He was 7 years old and already the size of a large dog. His fur was dark brown with black stripes. His eyes were fierce. "You cannot pass," he growled. "This is my territory." Looked at him calmly. Behind she could see other cubs watching. They were waiting to see what she would do. Would she fight? Would she run? Would she cry? Sat down on the ground. Blinked. This was not what he expected. "Okay," said, "then I'll wait here." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a ball of yarn. She had brought it from Earth. It was bright red and very soft. Slowly, she began unwinding it. Watched with confusion. "What are you doing?" "Playing." "Playing with what?" "This." She dangled the yarn in front of her. It swung gently back and forth. His eyes followed the movement. He couldn't help it. Something deep in his brain was responding. The yarn moved. Moving things were interesting. Moving things needed to be caught. Before he knew what was happening, pounced. He missed the yarn and tumbled over his legs. She laughed. It was a warm sound, not mean or mocking. She threw the yarn again and chased it across the hallway. 2 other cubs appeared. Was 5 years old with silver fur and big curious eyes. Bora was 4 with soft gray fur and a shy way of hiding behind things. They watched playing and couldn't resist. Soon all 3 cubs were tangled in red yarn. They rolled over each other. They pounced and missed. They made small chirping sounds that might have been laughter. Sat in the middle of it all and smiled. From the shadows, daughter watched. She was a young adult, not yet a parent but old enough to help run the clan hold. She had been assigned to watch the human, to report any problems. She had expected many problems. She had not expected this. The human should be afraid. Every other alien visitor had been afraid. They flinched when cubs growled. They backed away from teeth and claws. They never turned their backs. They never sat down. They never closed their eyes. But this human sat on the floor and played with cubs like they were ordinary children. Did not understand. The days continued. Each day the cubs tested differently. They knocked things from her hands. They hid her belongings. They jumped out from corners to scare her. Once snuck up behind her and let out his loudest roar. Turned around slowly. "Good morning, did you sleep well?" Deflated like a balloon with a hole in it. By the end of the first week, something strange was happening. The cubs were not testing anymore. They were following her. Wherever went, small furry shadows went too. When she ate breakfast, cubs appeared nearby. When she read in the garden, cubs sat in the trees above her. When she walked through the clan hold, cubs walked a few steps behind. They didn't know why they did this. Was not big or strong. She was not scary or powerful. She had no claws to protect them, no fangs to fight for them. By every standard, she was useless. But something about her felt different. Her heartbeat was slow and steady. Cubs could hear it from across the room. It was calming. When the adults fought or argued, their hearts raced like drums. When the warriors returned from hunts, their hearts pounded with excitement. But's heart was always the same. Slow, steady, safe. She also smelled strange, sweet somehow, like flowers and something warm. Later would learn that it was her cocoa butter lotion. To human noses, it was barely noticeable. To noses, it was wonderful. But most importantly, never chased them away. Cubs were taught from birth that they were predators. They should be fierce. They should be independent. They should not need comfort or softness. Adults rarely hugged them. Praise was given sparingly. Weakness was corrected quickly. Did not follow these rules. When Bora fell and scraped his knee, picked him up and held him. She made soft sounds and stroked his fur. Bora was so shocked that he forgot to cry. When asked 1,000 questions about Earth, answered every single one. She never told to be quiet. She never said the questions were stupid. She drew pictures and told stories and made feel like the most interesting cub in the world. When succeeded in a training exercise, clapped and cheered. The warriors nearby looked at her with confusion. Cheering was not done, but stood a little taller for the rest of the day. And then there was Talai. Talai was the smallest cub in the clan hold. She was only 3 years old. Her fur was pure white, which was rare among the. She was also fierce beyond her size. She bit harder than cubs twice her age. She growled at everyone, including the warden himself. But around Talai was different. It happened during an evening meal. The clan gathered in the great hall to eat together, sat in the corner trying to be unnoticeable. She was still learning customs and did not want to offend anyone. Talai appeared beside her. The tiny cub stared up at with intense golden eyes. Then, without warning, she climbed into his lap. She curled up into a ball, and she fell asleep. The great hall went silent. Did not share sleep. Sleep was vulnerable. Sleep was sacred. To sleep near someone was to trust them completely. To sleep on someone was something only mates and litter mates did. This tiny cub had just declared, in front of the entire clan, that she trusted the human more than anyone else. Looked at his smallest granddaughter. Then he looked at the human woman holding her. Met his eyes calmly. She did not move. She did not speak. She just sat there, stroking Talai's white fur with gentle fingers. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then turned back to his meal. "Eat," he told the clan. "The food grows cold." The talking resumed. The eating continued, but everything had changed. Later that night, found her father standing on the balcony. He was staring at the stars. "What is she?" asked. "The human, what is she really?" Was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was strange. "I don't know," he admitted, "but our cubs have decided she belongs here, and cubs do not lie." Stood beside her father. Together, they watched the moons rise over the mountains. Somewhere in the clan hold, a human woman was putting 4 predator cubs to bed. She was telling them a story about a rabbit and a turtle. The cubs had never heard of rabbits or turtles. They did not care. They just wanted to hear her voice. They just wanted to feel safe. 3 weeks had passed since arrived at the clan hold. The days had fallen into a comfortable pattern. She woke early. She helped with morning chores. She played with the cubs. She learned customs. She wrote reports for Commander. But today was different. Today was tired. She had stayed up late the night before, had nightmares about shadow beasts from an old legend, had held the little cub until dawn, singing soft songs and promising that nothing bad would come. By the time finally slept, the sun was already rising. Now it was afternoon. The clan hold was quiet, most rested during the hottest part of the day. The sunroom was empty and warm. Golden light poured through the tall windows. Thick cushions covered a long bench near the wall. Sat down to read her reports. The words blurred in front of her eyes. Her head felt heavy. The cushions were so soft. The sunlight was so warm. She told herself she would just close her eyes for a moment. Just one moment, just to rest. She was asleep within seconds. Found her first. The young cub had been looking for all afternoon. He wanted to show her the hunting trick he had learned. He wanted to see her smile and clap like she always did. He did not expect to find her sleeping. Froze in the doorway. His body went still. His ears pressed flat against his head. Every predator instinct screamed inside him. This was wrong. Prey did not sleep in the open. Prey found caves and holes and hiding places. Prey curled up small and stayed quiet and hoped nothing would find them. Prey never lay flat on their back with their throat exposed and their belly unprotected. But was not prey, had learned this over 3 weeks. She did not smell like prey. She did not act like prey. She did not run or hide or show fear. So what was she doing? Crept closer. His paws made no sound on the stone floor. His eyes stayed fixed on the sleeping human. She looked so small lying there, so soft, so breakable. He sniffed her hair. It smelled like flowers and warmth. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her heartbeat was calm and steady, even in sleep, even when a predator stood right beside her. How could anyone be so trusting? "What are you doing?" Spun around, was standing behind him. Her silver fur caught the sunlight. Her big eyes were fixed on. "She's sleeping," whispered. Tilted her head. "In here alone." "Yes." Walked past, she touched his arm gently. Her fur stood up with surprise. "She's cold." Humans ran at lower temperatures than, had explained this once, but knowing something and feeling it were different things. Too, skin felt dangerously cold. "She shouldn't sleep alone," said. "It's not safe." "We could wake her up," suggested. But neither of them moved to do it. Bora appeared next. He peeked through the doorway with his usual shyness. When he saw sleeping, his ears drooped with worry. "Is she okay?" he asked. "She's cold," said, "and alone." Bora crept into the room. He looked at for a long time. Then he looked at the other cubs. Something passed between them, something that did not need words. Moved first. He climbed onto the bench and curled up against side. His warm fur pressed against her arm. His tail wrapped around her wrist. Followed, she draped herself across legs like a blanket. Her purring started immediately, soft and low. Bora squeezed into the space between and the back of the bench. He was smaller than, so he fit perfectly. His head rested against her shoulder. There was still one empty spot. Chest rose and fell slowly, uncovered and unprotected. A tiny white shape appeared in the doorway. Talai stood there watching with her fierce golden eyes. She was the smallest cub. She was also the most protective. In the last 3 weeks she had claimed as hers. No one argued with her about it. Now she saw lying vulnerable. She saw the other cubs protecting her. She saw the empty spot over his heart. Talai crossed the room in quick, determined steps. She climbed over his tail. She stepped on his back. She ignored Bora's small noise of protest. Then she climbed onto his chest, tucked her head under his chin, and began to purr. The sound was louder than the others, deeper somehow. It vibrated through his chest and into her heart. Even in sleep, his arm moved. It wrapped around Talai's small body and held her close. The 4 cubs lay still. They breathed together. They purred together. The sunlight moved slowly across the floor. The afternoon stretched on, golden and peaceful. Slept better than she had in years. She did not know that she was making history. An hour passed, then another. Was looking for the cubs. They had missed their afternoon training. This was unusual, never missed training. He loved it too much. She searched the gardens, empty. She searched the playrooms, empty. She searched the kitchens, the training grounds, the sleeping quarters. Finally, she went to the sunroom. She pushed open the door. She saw the bench. She saw the cubs. The data tablet slipped from her fingers. It hit the stone floor with a loud crash. In the sunroom's eyes flew open. For a moment she was confused. Why was she so warm? Why was she so heavy? Why couldn't she move her arms or legs? Then she looked down. 4 pairs of golden eyes looked back at her. His heart did something strange. It squeezed tight with an emotion she couldn't name. These fierce little predators, these children of hunters and warriors, had piled on top of her while she slept. They had covered her with their warmth. They had protected her with their bodies. They had kept her safe. "Oh," she whispered softly, "hello, little ones." Talai's purring got louder. She pressed her face harder against his neck. At the doorway stood frozen. Her mouth hung open. Her eyes were wide with shock. Within minutes other appeared. Warriors, elders, parents, children, they crowded the doorway. They stared at the impossible scene. Looked at them calmly. She did not try to move. She did not push the cubs away. She just lay there, pinned under a pile of predator children, and smiled. "I think," she said quietly, "I might be stuck." Nobody laughed. They were too shocked to laugh. Found her voice. "Don't move," she whispered. The words came out strange and tight. "Please don't move." "I wasn't planning to," replied. "They're comfortable." A very old pushed through the crowd. Her fur was pure white with age. Her eyes were clouded but still sharp. This was Elder, the keeper of traditions. She was nearly 200 years old. She had seen many things. But she had never seen this. Walked slowly toward the bench. She looked at each cub. She looked at the human. She looked at the way Talai had tucked herself under his chin. When she spoke, her voice trembled. "The cubs have chosen," she announced. "They have claimed her as kin of heart." The silence that followed was absolute. Then, like a wave, the gasps and whispers began. Did not understand what was happening, but she could see tears in some of the eyes. She could see warriors bowing their heads. She could see parents pulling their children close. Whatever had just happened, it was important. She looked down at the 4 cubs on top of her. Eyes were defiant. Eyes were hopeful. Bora's eyes were shy, and Talai's eyes were fierce with love. Didn't need to understand the words. She understood everything else. The crowd in the sunroom kept growing. Word spread through the clanhold like fire through dry grass. Warriors left their training. Hunters returned from the forest. Parents carried their cubs from afternoon sleep. Everyone wanted to see. Everyone wanted to witness the impossible. Was a human journalist assigned to the diplomatic team. He had been living on the starship Bright Dawn, writing boring reports about cultural observations. He never expected anything exciting to happen. Now he stood in a room full of apex predators, recording the most significant moment in human relations. "What does it mean?" he whispered to Commander. "What's kin of heart?" Had gone very pale. He had studied every piece of cultural data available. He had prepared for many scenarios. This was not one of them. "It means they've adopted her," he said. His voice was hollow. "Into the clan permanently as family." "The cubs can do that." Nodded slowly. "Among the cubs are considered pure. Their instincts are uncorrupted by politics or prejudice. If cubs choose to protect something, to claim it, the adults must honor that choice. It's one of their oldest laws." His recording device trembled slightly. "So these 4 children just changed galactic politics." "Maybe, if Warden accepts it." All eyes turned to the Great Warden. Stood at the edge of the crowd. His face showed nothing. His golden eyes moved slowly over the scene. The human woman, the 4 cubs, his own granddaughter Talai purring against the human's throat. Elder spoke again. "The law of the cubs is clear, Warden. When the young claim a kin of heart, the clan must accept. This is the way of our ancestors. This is the way of our blood." Did not respond. On the bench, lifted his head. The young cub looked directly at his warden, at his grandfather. His eyes held a challenge that no cub had ever dared to give. "Try to take her," those eyes said. "See what happens." Felt something stir in his chest. Pride, yes, and something else. Something he had not felt since his own mate died many years ago. Hope. He stepped forward. The crowd parted before him like water. He walked until he stood directly beside the bench, looked up at him calmly. "You have caused much trouble, human," said. "I'm sorry, I only meant to take a short nap." "You slept in the open. You exposed yourself to predators. By all rights, you should have been eaten." Smiled slightly, "But I wasn't." "No, you were protected by cubs, by children who cannot even hunt on their own yet." His voice was strange, almost wondering. "Do you understand what that means?" Looked at the 4 small bodies pressed against her. She felt their warmth. She heard their purring. She felt Talai's tiny claws gripping her shirt like she would never let go. "I think so," she said softly. "They decided I was worth keeping." Was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He laughed. It was not the grinding, threatening laugh from before. This was real laughter, deep and warm. It shook his whole body. It filled the sunroom like thunder. "Worth keeping," he repeated. "Yes, yes, I think they did." He turned to face the crowd. His voice rose to fill the room. "The cubs have spoken. The law is clear. From this day forward, the human is kin of heart to the clan. She is under our protection. She is part of our blood. She is family." The crowd erupted. Did not cheer like humans. They did not clap or shout. Instead, they howled. Long, rising howls that came from deep in their chests. The sound washed over like a wave. It vibrated through her bones. It made tears spring to her eyes. She was being welcomed by apex predators, by hunters who had never accepted anyone outside their species. She was home. The next few hours were chaos. Good chaos, but still chaos. Every in the clan hold wanted to meet properly. They came one by one to touch her hand or sniff her hair. Some of them brought gifts. A warrior gave her a claw he had shed. An elder gave her a stone from a sacred mountain. A young mother gave her a blanket woven from the softest fur. Through it all, the cubs refused to leave side. They had claimed her. They would protect her, even from their own clan. Finally, as the sun began to set, the crowd thinned. Sat in the garden with Talai in her lap and the other 3 cubs nearby. Brought her food and water. "You should eat," said. "It has been a long day." Took the food gratefully. "Thank you, I'm sorry for causing so much trouble." Sat down across from her. For a long moment she just stared. Then she shook her head slowly. "I don't understand you," said. "What do you mean?" You came here alone. You had no weapons. You had no protection. You knew what we were. You knew we could kill you with a single swipe. Eyes were intense. Why weren't you afraid? Thought about the question carefully. She stroked Talai's fur while she considered her answer. I was afraid, she finally said. A little, but I was also curious and hopeful, and I trusted that you weren't the monsters the galaxy thought you were. Why? You had no evidence, no proof, just stories of violence and hunting and death. Smiled. I had one piece of evidence. What? Your cubs, gestured at the four small around her. Children don't lie about what they need. They need love. They need safety. They need someone to hold them when they're scared. If cubs needed those things, then adults must have felt them too. You just learned to hide it. Was silent for a long time. We are taught to be strong, she finally said. Weakness is death. Softness is death. This is the law of predators. Maybe, but strength isn't just about claws and teeth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is trust someone. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. Looked down at Talai. Your cubs understood that. They saw me sleeping and they thought she needs us. They didn't see weakness. They saw family. Talai purred louder, as if agreeing. Stood up slowly. She looked at with new eyes. Eyes that held confusion and wonder and something like respect. You are strange, human, she said, but perhaps strange is what we needed. She walked away into the evening shadows. That night, Commander contacted from the starship. Is it true, he asked, his voice was shaking. They actually adopted you. 4 cubs did, then the whole clan accepted it. Do you understand what this means? They have never accepted an outsider, ever, in their entire history. This changes everything. Looked out her window. The moons were rising over the mountains. Somewhere in the clan hold were preparing for the night. And in her room, 4 cubs were refusing to sleep anywhere except on her bed. I know, she said softly, it changes everything. She ended the call and lay down among the cubs, curled against her back, draped over her legs, Bora pressed against her side, and Talai, tiny fierce Talai, climbed onto her chest and tucked under her chin. The purring filled the room like a song. Closed her eyes and smiled. For the first time since she left Earth, she didn't feel alone. 3 months had passed since the day in the sunroom. The galaxy had not stopped talking about it. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from 100 different species. They had gathered to discuss the most unexpected development in interstellar relations in 50 years. Though the most feared predators in known space had requested formal partnership with humanity. Not a treaty, not a trade agreement, partnership. Warden stood at the center of the chamber. He looked out of place among the polished floors and floating screens. His claws clicked on the metal. His fur seemed too wild for such a civilized space. But his voice was steady and strong. For generations, said, they have stood alone. We trusted no one. We needed no one. We believed that strength meant isolation. We believed that power meant fear. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. We were wrong. Whispers rippled through the crowd, admitting they were wrong. This had never happened. A human woman came to live among us, continued. She was small. She was soft. She had no claws, no fangs, no armor. By every measure we knew she was weak. He smiled slightly. It was still a strange expression on his fierce face. But she was not weak. She was something else. Something our language has no word for. The council leader, a tall blue being with many eyes, leaned forward. What word would you use, Warden? Thought carefully before answering. Safe maker, he said. Den builder. Humans do not conquer territories, they create homes, and then they invite others inside. More whispers, more confusion. Our cubs recognized this before we did, said. They saw a human sleeping in the open, unprotected and vulnerable. Any predator would see prey. Our cubs saw family. They covered her with their bodies. They kept her warm. They protected her. He turned in a slow circle, looking at every representative. Cubs do not lie, cubs do not play politics, cubs follow their instincts, and their instincts told them that this human was worth protecting, worth trusting, worth loving. The chamber fell silent again. "They are requesting partnership with humanity," said, "because we have learned that true strength is not about claws or teeth. True strength is about connection, about trust, about being willing to let someone else keep you safe." He looked directly at the human delegation. "Humanity taught us this. A single, small, unarmed woman taught us this, and we are grateful." Back on the watched the broadcast in the great hall, the entire clan had gathered to see their warden speak. When he finished, they howled together. The sound shook the walls. Wiped tears from her eyes. Talai, who was sitting in her lap as always, looked up with concern. "Why are you leaking?" the little cub asked. "Are you broken?" Laughed through her tears. "No, little one, these are happy tears. Humans cry when they're very happy sometimes." "That's stupid," Talai said. "Yes," agreed, "it is a little stupid." Talai considered this, then she licked cheek. "There, I cleaned it." Hugged her tight. In the 3 months since the sunroom incident, many things had changed. The afternoon nap had become a tradition. Every day after the midday meal, cubs piled onto in the sunroom. At first it was just Bora and Talai, then other cubs joined, then young teenagers, then young adults. Now the afternoon nap included half the clan. Warriors who had never shown softness curled up against each other. Elders who had not slept deeply in years found peace. Parents held their children openly, without shame. And in the center of it all, one small human woman lay buried under a mountain of purring. Joined the nap on the 20th day. She pretended it was just to keep an eye on things. Everyone knew the truth. Now she slept every afternoon pressed against the side. Even old elder came sometimes. She claimed she was just resting her eyes. She snored louder than anyone. But the changes went beyond just napping. Cubs from other clan holds began visiting. They wanted to meet the human who slept in the open. They wanted to see if she was real. Many of them ended up staying for days, playing with and learning human games. Teenagers, usually too proud to show affection, started wearing their hair in braided styles. Had taught the cubs how to braid. Now it was a fashion trend across the planet. Young mothers asked for advice about raising cubs. Old warriors asked her for stories about Earth. Scientists asked her questions about human biology and culture. Everyone wanted to talk to her. Everyone wanted to be near her. Gave them all her time. The human journalist wrote about everything. His stories spread across the galaxy. People read about the fierce who had learned to cuddle. They saw pictures of terrifying predators sleeping in piles. They heard about a human woman who had changed an entire species by taking a nap. Other species started asking questions. If humans could befriend maybe they could befriend anyone. If a small, soft human could teach predators about trust, maybe anyone could learn. Maybe the galaxy didn't have to be divided into hunters and hunted. Maybe there was another way. On the last day of her official assignment, stood on the balcony with. The sun was setting behind the mountains. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. "The diplomatic team wants me to return to the starship," said. "They say my mission is complete." Made a low rumbling sound. "And what do you want?" Looked at the clan hold below. She saw cubs playing in the garden. She saw warriors training together. She saw families gathering for the evening meal. And she saw Talai sitting on a wall, watching her with fierce golden eyes. "I want to stay," she said softly, "if the clan will have me." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and placed his massive hand on her shoulder. His claws were very close to her throat. She didn't flinch. "You are kin of heart," he said. "You are family, you will always have a place here, always." Smiled through fresh tears. "Thank you, Warden." "Call me grandfather," said. "The cubs do." Laughed, "Thank you, grandfather." That night, she sent her final report to Commander. It was the last thing she would write as a diplomatic officer. She wrote about strength and weakness, about predators and prey, about the walls that species build between themselves and the bridges that can bring them down. She wrote about 4 cubs who saw a sleeping human and decided to keep her safe. And at the very end she wrote, "The galaxy has misunderstood both our species. They see thee as monsters because they have claws. They see humans as weak because we don't. But strength isn't about weapons. It's about what you're willing to protect. It's about what you're willing to trust." The cubs understood this before any of us. They looked at a sleeping human and saw not weakness, but an invitation. They piled on top of me because they wanted me to feel what they feel. Safe, warm, never alone. And that, I think, is the most human thing I've ever experienced. She closed her tablet and walked to the sunroom. The cubs were already waiting. Lay down on the bench, pressed against her back, covered her legs. Bora squeezed beside her, and Talai climbed onto her chest, tucked under her chin, and began to purr. Outside, the moons rose over the mountains. The stars came out one by one, and in a small room on an alien world, a human woman slept peacefully under a blanket of predators. She was exactly where she belonged. She was home,